Okay.
Marcia.
Water, huh?
Marcia. Corey. It's
Oh,
here.
Marcia.
Good talk,
Marcia.
Beth. I might stand if that's okay. I've been sitting all day. It feels good to stand. I'm just here to talk a little bit about your block grant for your water tower. And I thought it'd be good, I know you've had grants before, but if we just kind of talk about what your next steps are, what I do, what Neil does. But I wanted to start with kind of a budget. This was a page on the grant application, and I think it's important that we kind of look at this because it talks about, actually I got another one on the, actually, I'm going to get one today. Because, why this is important is it does a couple of things. At the bottom you can see, just to refresh your memory, I know you looked at this last fall, it's about $1 million project. And your grant's $300,000. And then the thought was at the time, you have your SRF loan, which is one funding source for a matching money, and that was going to be about $575,000. And then when Sharon was still clerk, she was telling me she wanted to use about $125,000 in cash reserves, which is your choice, and I don't know if that still is your plan, but that some reserves were going to be put to this project. Now, it doesn't have to be SRF, we'll talk about that in a minute, but so it's like $700,000 of your money and $300,000 from the state, so it's about 30-70 percentage. Now, why this is important is because up at the top you can see that what they're doing right now is putting a contract together between the state of Iowa and your city, and it will say, here's what we're approving that you build. So I'm not real concerned about each line item here, even though they require that you spell this out. There's a lot of flexibility in there. So if you got really good bids, you know, we could do more water main if you had more water main, you know, if you had some other areas of town. Right now they've approved you to do, what is it, 5,980 lineal feet, because that's kind of what Neil came up with to get this budget. But you can see those contingencies at the bottom of 60,000. You know, those are for unknown kinds of things, and if you don't spend it, maybe you do more water main work, maybe, I don't know, it needs to be water related, but you could add some things in there. So I guess as we progress, that's the kind of thing that we all just have to communicate because, you know, we have to keep the state posted. But I think they're really good about tweaking those, what they call performance targets. So that's something that as a grant administrator, that's what I would kind of keep my eye on and talk to Neil. And so, but at this point, I think what's your next step, and I did talk to Neil, I thought he was going to be here tonight, so I don't know if he and I didn't communicate well or what, but I'm pretty sure that we talked about this. Okay. So, but anyway, we need to get him to just get you a contract, because that's the next step is for him to start the design work. And then I think the schedule that we had proposed in the application was that he would design over the summer, an October bid letting or thereabouts, and then take the next year to construct with closeout in October of 2011. So that's kind of the schedule that the state's expecting for you. Now, so Neil's job is to get a contract to you and he'll start design. Your job would be to determine where you want to get that local money, because SRF, you do have a loan application into the SRF program. So if you want to use them, it's 3.25% interest. You can do a 20 or a 30-year payback. So it's up to you. I mean, we can work out the details on that. And that is one choice. If you're going to use them, we need to get them started on some environmental paperwork, because they have some of the same rules that the block grant program does, where they've got some hoops to jump through with the environment. And if we want them to be your funding source, they would start that work. Okay? If you want to use USDA for your loan, have you had them come to a council meeting? Okay, so you know what their options are. And I guess that's, you don't have to decide tonight, but I would think in the next couple of months, or preferably within the next month, I think that decision, it would be nice if we could make it. You know, if you really don't know, take 2 or 3 months. But I think the quicker you know, then the quicker we can head down some of the paperwork requirements. So that's one of your first goals is decide funding source. one of my first goals as grant administrator, and those costs are budgeted right in here. I don't know if you remember last fall, we sent out the 3 letters to 3, you had to send out 3 engineering letters, 3 administrator letters. We responded, Neil did. I think the selection was us. In fact, I'm going to lead my contract too, and there's no rush on this, but this is our pretty standard contract, and it is for the amount that's listed there, which I think is also the amount that we bid last fall. But anyway, my first start, what I do to begin with would be, again, work on some environmental paperwork, just like the SRF does. And one of the things that involves is that land that you need for the tower. That's the little bit of a kicker here that's not, it's real easy where you're doing your water mains, because that's where it's been disturbed. There's not a whole lot to look at there. The site where the tower's going to go, or at least where I applied, put a map in, are we still looking at that north, or have we switched sites? Okay.
Can't know.
Okay.
He said, I'm not going to know.
He said no. Okay. And that's what I need to know is where are we going to build this, because you can't do the environmental look, obviously, if we don't identify the site.
What's the possibility of tearing down the old one, putting the new one right where it's
You
at?
can do that. That's totally between you and your engineer. These people, I like this funding source because they are not going to tell you where to build it.
Would we even need an environmental study?
You would need much less of one. Yeah, you're then kind of exempted from some things, which really simplifies it. Because one of the things, if we were going to be up here, we'd have to get an archaeologist out. It's ridiculous. And you can avoid that if you build in a site that's already been disturbed. And so whether it's the old tower site, or even if it was where some old building was, or other water main and sewer lines that have disrupted it, yes, you can excuse yourself from a lot, which is great.
Well, is that a possibility? We've got the 2 wells to supply the town, but we don't have any reserves at that point.
And that's where you guys got to work with me.
What about the end of that? No, the end of that Walnut Street.
That's a good question. I don't know if there's any separation distance needed from a residence or a church.
I just drove up there because I wanted to look at that area just to see what it was. That's a Neil question.
Okay.
We need to get him to weigh in on that.
Because that is actually our
You own that land?
road there.
Okay. Between the church and the house?
Yeah.
Between the church and Pinky Keys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'd be tight, isn't it?
It would be.
I'm gonna have to try to.
It'd be no different.
Well,
At
the footprints, I asked when Neil was here, and he said it was 80 by 60, or maybe you told me that. 80 by 60. So 80 by 160, not 60.
How wide is that street up there?
Can't tell you.
Every street's different.
About 80, that's about 80.
You're up the end of Walnut. By the church.
Yeah. 80.
80, and then what's the depth of that lot? Or the depth of the lot?
You're gonna have problems there because they've got easement where they park. Yeah, you've got 80 feet.
Yeah.
And what they have, I can't tell you what's on the side of it.
Yeah, 160 north and south.
North and, no, well,
We'd run in the house or church, one or two.
actually, it's like 150, I think.